Well, thank you, all of you, for being here today. The effects of the COVID-19 pandemic are now clearly being felt by all Canadians. Canadians are worried about their health and the health of their loved ones, and I can certainly understand that. Two of my own loved ones right now have COVID-19. One of my sisters who lives in Europe and my godson in the United States. They're both doing well, and I know they'll get through this, but it is most certainly a challenge for everyone. It's a reminder of how this disease is impacting so many people. Our work to contain this virus just cannot cease. We're all in this together. The same is true for our economy. Canadians and Canadian businesses are experiencing very real economic issues as a result of this outbreak. I also want to thank the manufacturers, the workers, and the business owners who are making sure Canada is prepared and is well stocked with medical equipment and other necessities. And the grocery and the pharmacy workers who are making sure that Canadians have the food and the medicine that we need. Je tiens à remercier tous les travailleurs de la santé de première ligne. Je tiens également à remercier les fabricants, les travailleurs et les propriétaires d'entreprises et les employés d'épicerie et de pharmacie qui s'assurent que les Canadiens ont la nourriture et les médicaments dont ils ont besoin. As we've said from the very beginning, we're prepared to do whatever it takes to support Canadians. That includes supporting the businesses that Canadians own and run. I know that many business owners have poured years into building businesses that support families, that support communities across the country. This morning, the Prime Minister announced new measures for businesses as part of Canada's COVID-19 economic response plan to support businesses and to protect our strong economy. I know that many businesses and self-employed people are worried about the GST, HST payments and customs duties that are coming due. Effective immediately, any payments that are due at the end of March, in April, and May are now deferred until the end of June. This measure will leave businesses with around $30 billion of cash in hand to help businesses pay workers, pay suppliers, pay their businesses' rent or mortgages, and any other expenses coming due. Comme nous l'avons dit depuis le début, nous sommes prêts à faire tout ce qu'il faut pour soutenir les Canadiens. Cela comprend le soutien aux entreprises que les Canadiens possèdent et gèrent. Ce matin, le Premier ministre a annoncé la prochaine série de mesures pour soutenir les entreprises dans le cadre du plan d'intervention économique du Canada pour répondre à COVID-19. Prenant effet immédiatement, tous les paiements de TPS, TVH, dus à la fin mars, avril et mai, sont maintenant reportés jusqu'à la fin juin. Cette mesure laissera les entreprises avec de l'argent dans leur compte de banque afin qu'ils puissent payer les travailleurs, payer les fournisseurs et toute autre dépense. Canada Revenue Agency is also reducing the administrative burdens of businesses at this time. This will give Canadian business owners more time to manage pressing challenges. We know that leaving cash in the hands of businesses is only one part of the solution. During this time, some businesses may need cash injections to stay strong. We're announcing 3 new programs to help businesses, particularly small businesses, to access capital. This morning, the Prime Minister announced the new Canada Emergency Business Account to provide small businesses and not-for-profits with interest-free loans of up to $40,000. This funding will support the Main Street businesses that give our communities their character, the local restaurants, the corner coffee shops, the small travel agencies, the salons and barber shops, and the many other small businesses that help form the very backbone of Canada's economy. This program will provide $25 billion of support for Canada's small businesses. Loans will be available through eligible financial institutions and will be fully guaranteed and funded by the Government of Canada. Fully guaranteed and funded. And anyone who pays the loan off by December 31st, 2022 will see 25% loan forgiveness, up to $10,000. This will help businesses have more money at this challenging time. More details will be coming shortly. Le gouvernement fédéral a également annoncé le nouveau compte d'urgence pour les entreprises canadiennes will provide an additional $20 billion of support. We also announced a new co-lending program for small and medium-sized enterprises. The Business Development Bank of Canada will team up with financial institutions to offer loans up to $6.25 million to help keep them operating. This program will invest an additional $20 billion in Canadian businesses. Businesses will be able to apply and receive these loans directly through financial institutions. Small and medium-sized enterprises will be able to access both programs and use this money to keep up operations and keep our economy stable. Nous voulons également nous assurer que les petites et moyennes entreprises du Canada puissent continuer de fonctionner tout au long de ce défi. Notre gouvernement accordera un financement aux institutions financières afin qu'elles puissent octroyer de nouveaux crédits d'exploitation et des prêts à terme pouvant aller jusqu'à 6,25 millions de dollars aux petites et moyennes entreprises au Canada qui pourraient être particulièrement vulnérables aux répercussions économiques du COVID-19. Nous avons également annoncé un nouveau programme de cofinancement. La Banque de développement du Canada s'associera à des institutions financières pour offrir des prêts pouvant atteindre 6,25 millions de dollars pour aider les PME à continuer de fonctionner. Les entreprises pourront demander et recevoir ces prêts directement par l'intermédiaire des institutions financières. Combined, these announcements represent $65 billion in direct support and an additional $30 billion of deferred taxes, for a total of $95 billion in additional support for the Canadian economy at this time. Ensemble, ces annonces représentent 65 milliards de dollars en soutien direct et 30 milliards de dollars en impôts différés, pour un total de 95 milliards de dollars en soutien supplémentaire à l'économie canadienne à l'heure actuelle. This program will roll out in the next 3 weeks, and interested businesses should work directly with their current financial institutions. I want to make special mention that today is the last Friday of the month. I'm told seniors get their checks today, typically, and usually head to banks to deposit them. I'd ask people to be vigilant in thinking about how our actions affect our vulnerable neighbors. Please consider giving seniors who are very worried about coronavirus spaces at bank branches today. Canada's COVID-19 economic response plan is supporting businesses through a variety of measures. 2 weeks ago, I launched the Business Credit Availability Program. 9 days ago, we deferred income tax payments until August 31st of this year. This week, we increased credit for farmers and the agri-food sector. The government's also introduced measures to help businesses to support employees. Enhancements to the work-sharing program have been particularly important. A temporary 10% wage subsidy for up to 3 months that will provide up to $25,000 per employer. But today, we announced a new wage subsidy of up to 75% for qualifying small and medium-sized businesses for up to 3 months, retroactive to March 15th. This will be coming soon. This program is intended for businesses that experience significant revenue reductions because of COVID-19 and decide to keep their staff and pay them in full. More details will, as I said, be available soon. The new Canada Emergency Response Benefit is available to employees who are still employed but are not receiving income because of disruptions to their work. That can be because of anything to do with COVID-19. Preserving the connection between employer and employee for when business gets back to normal. Aujourd'hui, nous avons annoncé une nouvelle subvention salariale pouvant atteindre 75% pour les petites et moyennes entreprises éligibles, pour une période pouvant aller jusqu'à 3 mois, rétroactive au 15 mars. Ce programme est destiné aux entreprises qui subissent d'importantes réductions de revenus en raison de COVID-19 et décident de garder leur personnel et de le payer en totalité. Plus de détails seront bientôt disponibles. The government's aware that businesses in certain sectors have been particularly impacted by the economic impact of the COVID-19 epidemic. We've been working directly with firms in the airline industry and on a program for the energy sector. More details on these discussions and the conclusions will be available soon. We know particularly affected sectors have urgent needs for credit. Nous avons travaillé directement avec des entreprises du secteur aérien et sur un programme pour le secteur de l'énergie. Plus de détails viendront bientôt. Nous savons que les secteurs particulièrement touchés ont des besoins urgents de crédit. We're working to make sure businesses in all sectors get support so that when the time comes, and it will come, businesses can bounce back quickly and get Canadians back to work. In these uncertain times, so much is still unknown, but I want you to know this. Your government will be backing you up all the way. We'll be here to support Canadians every step of the way. Thank you very much. Now I'm quite pleased to be sitting here with the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Stephen Poloz, who has a few things to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Minister. Good afternoon, everybody. Bonjour tout le monde. Given the history of the global financial crisis and its aftermath, we're well aware that central banks in general have modest room to maneuver. Accordingly, it has been a consensus in a profession for quite some time that the next major economic shock would need to be dealt with mainly by fiscal policy. This is the case today, not only because interest rates are already low, but because of the nature of the shock that we face. Now, monetary policy is not going to have its usual effects in an economy that has been shut down. Fiscal policy, though, has the right tools for this situation, and the measures that have been announced will buffer Canadians and the economy from the effects of this shock. Now, monetary policy is playing an important complementary role in this situation. We effectively need to stop the clock, allow our medical experts to combat the virus, and then restart the economy afterward. Companies and individuals need access to credit during this period. People expect to be able to go out and use their credit card, draw on their HELOC. Companies expect to be able to draw on their credit lines. This all requires that the financial system continue to operate normally. And that is why the bank has focused its efforts on measures that ensure financial markets function and credit remains available. This means buying various financial assets so market participants can get the liquidity that they need. And already, these actions have increased the Bank of Canada's balance sheet by about $90 billion over the past 2 weeks. Now today, we've moved our interest rate to 0.25%, which for technical reasons we consider to be its lower bound. We are also launching a commercial paper purchase program to help improve the functioning of that market, which is a key channel of credit for companies. Aujourd'hui, nous avons abaissé notre taux à 0,25%, ce qu'on considère sa valeur plancher. Nous commençons aussi un programme d'achat de papier commercial pour atténuer les tensions sur les marchés de financement à court terme, une source essentielle de financement des entreprises. The Government of Canada's securities market is foundational to our financial system. It has been functioning reasonably well in the circumstances, but the level of liquidity has been well below normal. Accordingly, we have announced today that we will begin to acquire Government of Canada bonds for our balance sheet. In our monetary policy toolkit, we call this large-scale asset purchases, LSAPs. But many prefer to use the term quantitative easing, or QE. Our objective of this at this time is to ensure properly functioning financial markets, and the program may be adjusted depending on market conditions. However, to reduce financial market uncertainty, we are also committing today to continue purchasing Government of Canada bonds until the economic recovery is well underway. Nous avons confiance que les taux d'intérêt aussi bas que possible et un système financier en plein fonctionnement vont préparer le terrain pour une reprise économique après que la crise est passée. We are confident that having interest rates as low as possible and having well-functioning financial markets will lay the foundation for a robust economic recovery once this crisis has passed. Thank you.
Say thank you, Governor. Thank you, all of you, for being here. We're very hopeful to have the opportunity to answer your questions and give you more sense of what it is we're announcing today.
Thank you. So for today, we'll be starting on the phone. We'll take 3 questions on the phone, come back to the room, and then go back to the phone. Please limit your interventions to a question and a follow-up. Moderator, it's up to you.
Thank you. Merci. Our first question, notre première question nous vient de Alex Bollingal with the Toronto Star. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. Just looking at, there's so many measures in the past couple of weeks, it's almost hard to keep track now. You mentioned $95 billion in spending in these 3 measures for businesses, but can you give us a sense of how that adds to the spending that was in the rescue package that passed on Wednesday, and where we're at in terms of a total COVID-19 fiscal response?
Well, thank you, and I understand that that you're saying that these things are moving quickly. I think all Canadians know that this challenge is one that we need to react to on a day-by-day basis to make sure that we are having the sort of impact on people and that we can recover in a way that we know is important. So that's really been why we've been making these announcements on a very regular basis. What we talked about earlier this week and the legislation that was passed represents, when you look at the direct measures to people, $52 billion in direct measures to Canadians, primarily delivering money to people through the Canada Emergency Response Program, the benefit that will allow people to have $2,000 per month for 16 weeks. So that's the important part. There's a number of other things, as you know. Then on top of that, we've had $55 billion in deferral of income taxes for individuals and for businesses. So that's how we got to the $107 billion number. What you're hearing today is something a little bit different. You're hearing about an additional deferral of taxes that we see roughly in the order of magnitude of $30 billion. So that should be added to the $55 billion. And on top of that, credit that represents another $65 billion of credit. And so that's going to enable the businesses that go out and talk to their financial institutions to access credit. And very importantly, that includes the $40,000 per small business loan opportunity, an interest-free loan that if people pay that back before December 31st, 2022, they will have up to $10,000 or 25% of that loan forgiven. So that's how that works. So we appreciate that this is changing fast. I can tell you that we will continue to remain on top of it to ensure that people are supported, to make sure that businesses are supported, and to ensure that we have an economy that can come out of this challenge in a way that will continue to provide opportunities for Canadians.
And just as a follow-up, you mentioned in your remarks that the wage subsidy will be for businesses who decide to keep their staff. Can you clarify what that means? Does that mean if a business has laid off some employees through this, that they wouldn't be eligible, or they'd have to rehire to get the wage subsidies? What does that mean exactly?
Well, I want to be really clear. We're making sure that we're supporting Canadians who are impacted by this COVID-19 situation. So that's what we're trying to do. And what we're saying is the benefit that we've put forward, which is applicable for anybody who is sick or quarantined or at home because they need to be at home or unable to work, that those people will be able to get the benefit, the $2,000 per month for 4 months, so long as they were earning $5,000 or more in the year before, and so long as their income's gone down to nothing as a result of COVID-19. So that's important for everyone to know. There will be businesses, though, that will be impacted by COVID-19, but who will want to continue to be paying their staff. So for those businesses, what we're saying is we will provide them with a wage subsidy so they can continue paying their staff directly, meaning that the the individual won't be getting the emergency response benefit because they'll be being paid by their employer. And we just want to make sure that those employers have an incentive to keep people on if they can see that they can do that, which we think is important.
Thank you. Merci. Our next question, notre prochaine question is from Molly Thomas with CTV National News. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hi, Minister Morneau. The businesses I've been talking to today, they keep saying that the 75 wage subsidy is amazing for them. They're really happy about that. But the Prime Minister kept talking about qualifying businesses. Can you just give us an idea of what exactly these businesses need to be qualified for this? And also, will there be a cap per employee or per business on how much money they can get?
Well, thank you. I think what the Prime Minister said this morning, and it is important for us to recognize, is that we do have to provide more details on this. We will be working over the course of the weekend to make sure those details are available. We appreciate it's an urgent and important issue for so many businesses. The idea is that this is supporting businesses who really, they have been impacted by the COVID-19 crisis, so the revenue has gone down significantly, and they are keeping their employees on, so they're continuing to pay their employees. So that is difficult for a business to do, obviously, if they've been significantly impacted. So that's the broad idea that we're trying to address. And after the Prime Minister's announcement this morning, I had a number of messages from business owners, from small business owners saying, this is something that will help us because we were trying to keep our employees on and continue to pay them, even though we weren't having the same revenue as we had before. So this is intended for those businesses, and it won't be every business, so they can do that. Of course, there'll be many other businesses that, to the extent they can't do that, the good part about our Canada Emergency Response benefit is that even if an employee says that we're going to furlough an employer, a company decides to furlough their employees, they can maintain that relation with the employee, and the employee will get a direct payment from the government. So either way, we're protecting Canadians and recognize that people need to be able to have confidence that they'll be able to get access to funds during a challenging time.
So no idea right now on a cap?
We will give you more details in the days to come.
Okay. My second question is about, of course, you've announced many emergency initiatives for Canadians that will be helpful, but we haven't heard a lot about the energy sector. You referred to that briefly in your comments. What would you say, I guess, to people in Alberta or Saskatchewan that were struggling long before this crisis that feel like they are last on the emergency list?
They're absolutely not last on the emergency list. Let me just start by saying we recognize that the impacts for many people working in the energy sector in Alberta or in Saskatchewan or Newfoundland and Labrador are amplified because they have the issue around the COVID-19, which is obviously presenting enormous challenges. But on top of that, they have a very difficult situation because of changes at OPEC between Russia and Saudi Arabia. So we know that these are both impacts. What we're trying to make sure we do for that sector is support that sector with credit that will be guaranteed by the federal government to a certain extent to allow them to bridge through a difficult time, especially these small and medium-sized companies. It's really not different from the way we see how we're going to deal with the small and medium-sized business sector, as we talked about today. We need to help people to have credit to get through a difficult time and to find advantageous terms for that. By providing guarantees to the banking sector from the federal government, it enables banks to continue lending in challenging situations. That's what we're trying to do. The details are being worked out as we speak, so there'll be more opportunity to talk about that shortly. Additionally, we're in discussions with a number of airline companies because we know that sector has been particularly hard hit, and those discussions also are progressing in a way that is getting us to have opportunity to announce things in the not too distant future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci. Notre prochaine question, our next question, is from Mélanie Marquis avec La Presse. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Bonjour, Monsieur Morneau, dans le projet de loi C13, il y a une disposition où on dit que le montant de la prestation d'urgence en fait, ne s'applique pas à un travailleur qui ne cesse pas d'exercer son emploi s'il le quitte volontairement. J'aurais besoin d'une réponse claire, s'il vous plaît, M. Morneau, parce que les lecteurs nous posent des questions très précises. Est-ce que, par exemple, une infirmière qui décide ou une préposée aux bénéficiaires qui décide de quitter son emploi parce qu'elle ne se sent pas à l'aise d'y aller, est-ce que une caissière qui travaille dans une pharmacie qui décide de quitter son emploi volontairement va pouvoir toucher les 2 000 $ par mois de la prestation d'urgence?
Merci. Je sais que c'est très important d'être clair. Donc, il y a vraiment deux conditions très importantes. Si quelqu'un a gagné plus de 5 000 $ pendant les derniers 12 mois, et si quelqu'un est dans une situation où il ne peut pas avoir une source de revenus en ce moment, ça veut dire que si il est malade, s'il est en quarantaine, s'il est chez eux, si son employeur est dans une situation où ils ne peuvent pas lui payer. Donc ça, c'est les conditions. Il n'y a pas une nécessité d'avoir une séparation entre employé et employeur. Je sais que ça va dire que les gens qui sont dans une situation où ils ne peuvent pas travailler à cause de COVID-19 sont dans une situation où ils peuvent avoir le bénéfice.
OK, mais je veux dire, peut-être que c'est moi, mais je comprends pas. Par exemple, une caissière qui travaille dans une pharmacie où il y a beaucoup de gens potentiellement infectés qui entrent, elle ne veut pas continuer à travailler parce qu'elle craint pour sa santé. Si elle démissionne, est-ce qu'elle peut toucher la prestation?
Ce que je peux dire, on doit assurer les gens que s'ils ne peuvent pas travailler, s'ils ne sont pas confortables avec le travail, s'ils restent chez eux, ils peuvent faire une application pour le bénéfice. Et les deux conditions importantes, c'est s'ils ont gagné 5 000 $ dans l'année passée, s'ils sont dans une situation où ils ne peuvent pas gagner l'argent en ce moment à cause de COVID-19.
OK, donc j'en comprends que la réponse c'est oui. Juste sur un autre sujet, vous avez, M. Trudeau disait hier que vous êtes en négociation avec les grandes banques pour les inciter à revoir leur taux d'intérêt, donc qui sont généralement 19-20 %. Qu'est-ce que les banques vous disent à ce sujet, M. Morneau?
D'être très clair, j'étais en négociation avec les banques pendant les dernières semaines. Une chose importante est de trouver une façon pour les gens, pour les individus, d'avoir quelque accès au crédit. De cette façon, ça peut améliorer leur situation avec leur prêt. Ça veut dire le prêt crédit card, le prêt prêt des automobiles. Donc, j'ai pas quelque chose à dire aujourd'hui, mais nous continuons avec les discussions pour assurer que pour tout le monde, ils peuvent avoir une situation qui est mieux. Et aussi, j'ai déjà eu une négociation, une discussion avec les banques, et il m'a assuré que s'il y a quelqu'un qui est dans une situation difficile, il peut avoir une possibilité de manquer un mois de paiement dans leur carte de crédit, leur prêt pour une automobile, par exemple. Donc, il y a les programmes avec les banques pour le faire et ça, c'est déjà là.
Thank you. So we'll come back to the room. Here you go. Go ahead, please. Absolutely.
Morneau, and a question for Mr. Poloz. So I'm just wondering if you think fewer people are going to apply for the emergency benefit now that you've got that wage subsidy in place. That's my number one question. And then in terms of talking to the banks, what are you asking them to drop their rates to, and are they listening? Are they going to do something? And then I have a question for Mr. Poloz, Governor Poloz.
So that was a tricky way to get more than two questions in. Is that the idea? Our sense is that for a large number of organizations, that are facing a significant drop in revenue, they will furlough their employees, and those employees will get a direct payment from the government. It'll be $2,000 per month for up to 4 months. We do know, though, that there are many employers out there who, notwithstanding that they've had a significant drop in their revenues, would like to keep all of their employees on and keep paying their employees in full. That is a subset of employers. I can't tell you I know exactly how large either subset is, but I expect that there will be firms that will avail themselves of that opportunity. We wanted to make sure that was there for them, and that I think is important. But primarily what we're saying to Canadians is whether you're in the first category or the second category, we have your back during a difficult time, and that's critically important. With respect to our discussions with banks, I think what we're trying to say is not that we're negotiating on particular rates. The banks will continue to act in a commercial way that's appropriate. But what we're trying to make sure is that individuals, that small businesses have access to credit. And of course, having access to credit is a way for people to lower their overall costs in their family, because if they have access to low cost credit. The example I would give you is the approach we've taken today announced that small businesses can get access to $40,000 of interest-free debt, so interest-free loans from the bank. So it really means for a small business, they can now get that $40,000. They can make their way through a challenging time, and if they pay back that amount by the end of the first part of the term, by December 31st, 2022, they will have up to 25% of the loan forgiven. So if it's a $40,000 loan, they'll have $10,000 forgiven. So a very good position for them, because of course we don't want businesses to be saddled with debt at the end of this, and that will help them to get through a tough time.
Poloz, in terms of the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, said, I think it was yesterday, that the country may well be in a recession, but it's different than your usual recession because the economy is actually sound. Is that how you see what's going on in Canada? And on quantitative easing, is there any limit to how much money you're willing to print?
So I think the chairman characterized it pretty well. I mean, I think we often talk about recessions in a mechanical way. A recession is when the economy has a negative print for 2 quarters in a row. That's the narrowest possible definition of a recession, and it's just a mechanical one. It doesn't speak to what's going on in the economy. So for us, an actual recession has got to do with behavior. That is that, companies, for various reasons, are experiencing slower sales, their confidence erodes, they may lay off some people, consumers' confidence start to erode, they spend less money, so companies' revenues erode some further, and so on. So it's a negative cycle. And it's that cumulative effect through confidence channels, which gives you that behavioral sense of what a recession actually is. So I start this story, though, with the Canadian economy. Before all this happened, we were at a 40-year low in unemployment. With inflation on target, the economy was in very good shape, was demonstrating resilience all last year, despite the trade wars that were underway. So we were feeling pretty confident that actually this year, with NAFTA and so on, we would have the makings of a very sustained output path. Well, okay, now we don't have that. And so since I can't really comment on how behavior is being affected by all this, how consumer confidence and business confidence, what matters there are the policies buttressing that confidence. And this is what you're seeing, is those are major fiscal efforts to do that. In the meantime, our part is to maintain the flow of credit so the system's working, so that banks can function in their usual way, and indeed right now in extraordinary ways, right? Banks are doing things like deferrals of mortgages and so on, which, it's almost like policy making, isn't it? It's a very helpful aspect. So all that to say, I don't think it's relevant. I mean, how much how much does the output contract is how we would measure whether or not we were in a recession. Is almost irrelevant. It's just a number. What matters is what's going under the surface. And if we manage to buffer consumer confidence and business confidence, I think we will. And if the policies we talked here, if they work as intended, I think we'll maintain those linkages between companies and their employees. And that means that we'll have a very robust return to where we were. We will have limited or possibly avoided permanent damage to the economy. That's what that's all about. Your other question is about QE. You posed it in a way which I think is intended to be a little bit pejorative, perhaps. So we as we've said, QE, the short form for QE is you're printing money. It's true that the central bank balance sheet is increasing. That's exactly how we do print money. But when we think of when we're first doing our economics classes, we think of printing money as printing money and giving it to people in an envelope, and they spend it. So it's out there permanently. And so the old Milton Friedman thing about too much money chasing too few goods, printing money is not a sustainable policy. And that's been proven many times in history. What we're doing today is we're doing QE in order to accommodate demands for liquidity by all sorts of people, not just market participants, not just by banks, but by companies and individuals. So companies with large credit lines with their banks, which are there for a rainy day, are pulling their entire credit line. So they have the cash at hand. Well, where does the cash go? Well, they're going to put it in the bank. They don't take it out per se, but they know they have even more ready access to it now that they've pulled it down their line. Well, it's going back into the system, but it's being held for precautionary reasons, not in order to go out and spend it the way you think of as money printing. So I'm trying to draw an important distinction here. I hope you appreciate that. The demand for liquidity rises, the central bank expands its balance sheet in order to accommodate it. Someday the tensions will ease back and we won't need as much liquidity in the markets in order to keep them functioning. But in order to make sure that markets understand that that this QE program is there to stay, we've said explicitly today that we will continue to buy Government of Canada debt until such time as we have a recovery in the economy well underway. And we can fuss about those details at a future date. But the main thing is, it's essentially, when you ask how big can it be, there's no theoretical limit to this. And I'm hopeful that it's too big. In fact, the fiscal actions are sufficient that you would expect to be a lot of cushioning to what's going on. And that's fine. As I said this morning, no firefighter ever got criticized for using too much water.
Thank you. Yep.
Hi, Rachel Haynes from CTV. For Minister Morneau, today the details that we do have from the wage subsidy plan say that small businesses can access it for 3 months. But earlier, Dr. New said that this could go on for many months is what we're looking at. So are you willing to extend this program at the current rate of 75% for as long as this crisis continues?
I think what you're pointing out is the reality of the situation we find ourselves in. Nobody can really predict the depth or the duration of this challenge. You've seen us respond, I would argue, as fast as we can to the challenges that we're facing, to change our approach in a way that protects Canadians. What we're talking about today is making sure we're protecting businesses that want to take the course of keeping their employees engaged. And I think we're going to be open to responding to the challenges that we face. So we aren't there yet, so I don't need to yet come to that conclusion. But what we've demonstrated is that we do want to address this issue. We absolutely believe it's important to protect Canadians, to make sure they have money for what they need, and to protect businesses so they can come out of this challenge. And if the challenge is longer or deeper, then we'll respond accordingly.
The wage subsidy come a bit late because other countries had been implementing it, and there had been calls in Canada to implement a 75% wage subsidy. more than 1 million people have already applied for EI. We know that there have been a lot of layoffs. So are businesses now in a tougher situation than they would have been had this measure been previously announced? And could more layoffs have been avoided if this announcement had come sooner?
I will never be able to know what might have happened if. What I do know is what we've been focused on, though, from day one. We've looked at what's the best way that we can get funds to Canadians who are impacted by this really important challenge. And in our situation, in our economy, we have about 5.7 million people out of the 19 million people who work each day are not employed by an employer. So we were very focused on how do we make sure that everybody gets access to funds. So it meant for the person who is a personal support worker who works on their own, or somebody who drives an Uber, all these people who aren't necessarily attached to an employer, we need to figure out how to get money to them, and to get money to people who might be, off home sick, and to deal with people who were not getting income because their employer, said that we can't pay you anymore. So we realized this was the most important challenge, and you've seen us react quickly. That to me was the most important issue that we need to get on really rapidly. And it was a big challenge because we needed to make sure that we could support all those people. We had to look at our systems to make sure we could deliver. I'm now, each day we're getting more and more detail about exactly when we can deliver. So people, as of the week of April 6th, during that week, will be able to go online in a simple way, get access to money through the CRA. That we think is really important. And this just provides another channel. So we're going to keep responding appropriately, and we won't always get it right. This is moving so fast that we won't always get it right, but we will keep working at it to make sure we do get it right, and that we do support people, and that we deal with challenges that come up tomorrow and the day after and the week after that.
Do we have another question in the room? No. Okay, we'll go back to the phone. Moderator, up to you.
Thank you. Our next question, notre prochaine question is from Teresa Wright with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Hello, Mr. Morneau. We've heard evolving spending measures that have been announced over the last couple of days. You say there's more support coming for different industries. How much spending overall are you considering? And what are all the other measures that are under consideration right now?
Well, thank you. I think the first thing to frame my response to your question is we start with a very good fiscal position. So knowing that is a really good starting point means we are fortunate in Canada. We actually have the capacity to deal with this in a way that we need to. So we have the capacity to deal with this in the way that we need to. I will tell you that we have not put a cap on what we might need to invest to solve this problem, to make sure that we protect Canadians. It continues to evolve. So we are going to respond appropriately. The measures that we've put out so far mean that we are putting out 5% of our overall economy or more. And that's before we start thinking about the credit that we're putting in place for businesses to get through this time period. So it's very significant. It is entirely possible that we will need to make it more significant, and we're going to deal with those things as we go along. As for new measures, we continue to look at how we can support people to get through this time. So as we have new things that we need to introduce, people that are facing challenges, we need to support vulnerable Canadians who might find themselves in a particularly difficult situation. So we're going to be talking more about those things in the days to come, and we'll do it as soon as we have more details for Canadians.
I can appreciate that you're saying that there's no cap, but is there a number that you have in mind in terms of right now what the overall spending that the economy can take right now, and what the plan is there?
No, there's not a cap. There's a realization that we need to support Canadians, and that we're going to do whatever it takes to support Canadians. There's a realization that we need to come out of this strong, so we need to support businesses so they can actually bridge the gap. We're always going to responsibly look at what these programs cost, but that is not the key issue right now. We've got literally millions of people who are worried about whether they're going to have the money to support their families in the coming weeks. That is first priority, and that's where we're going to continue to place our focus. Those businesses that are really the place where people get their jobs, those including not-for-profits where people go to work every day, we want them to bridge this gap. We expect that this will be difficult, but relatively short in term. So we need to find a way to bridge that. And we're not going to put a cap on it. We're going to do whatever it takes to support people.
Thank you. Merci. Our next question, la prochaine question, is from Dylan Robertson with the Winnipeg Free Press. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
The Premier of Manitoba has asked for emergency loans for provinces, and I'm just wondering if you've had that request from any of the provinces, and if you're planning to do anything like look into that request.
Well, I'll just thank you for that question. I think that's a question that may be well addressed by the governor. I can say from my perspective, we are in regular contact with the provinces. I'm holding daily calls with many of them. We have a regularly scheduled weekly call. We know that this challenge is placing pressures on provinces. We know that we need to work together around the health challenges first and foremost, and make sure that they're resilient also in the face of this issue. So that's our continuing goal. I know the governor has likely some things to say about the overall markets. Governor.
Well, yes, and thanks, Minister. I mean, of course, if there were tensions or stresses, I guess is a better word, in the Government of Canada market, there's even bigger stresses in the provincial bond market. This is totally understandable when liquidity is in short supply. So what we've done is last week started a program to purchase provincial securities at issue. So we are taking 40% of each short-term issue from provinces. We're working with the treasurers across the country to create predictability along that financing schedule, and so that they don't all come the same day. We're kind of organizing ourselves so that there's usually one or two in each trading day. And so that's working well. It's already had an impact on some of the spreads, so we know that people have noticed that we're there. So this should ease those financing constraints for the provinces, and at least give them predictability for their near-term cash flows. I mean, at this stage, we're focusing on short-term paper, precisely because we all believe that this is a short-term shock that we're dealing with. The idea is to build us a bridge to normalcy, and although of course there's uncertainty how long that would be, we are all hoping that it's not very long. You know, say 3 months, 4 months. That would be welcome if it works out that way. And so the financing we put in place has that as a vision, but of course, as I said in answer to a previous question, we can ramp up any one of these programs if need be, if the situation takes longer or becomes more severe.
And just a follow-up for Governor Poloz. I apologize. The proposal is for an emergency credit agency, not loans. I misspoke. The basis of that would be that Ottawa would likely have a cheaper interest rate than some of the provinces. And I'm just wondering if purchasing provincial securities is a better option than having something like an emergency credit agency.
Well, the obvious advantage is that we can do it at the drop of a hat, which is what we did. We announced it a week or at the beginning of the week, and we did deals this week. And so there's nothing to set up except a bit of a stress in our, frankly, overworked trading operations, which is 3 groups of people scattered so they don't all become ill together. and they're doing a remarkable job of executing. As I said, we've accumulated over $90 billion in these 2 weeks already of additional assets on our balance sheet, doing programs that we've never done before for the most part. So it's quite a tribute to fast acting. So I mean that I think what is happening there is, of course, there's always a modest spread between Government of Canada and provincial interest rates, but interest rates are all low. So I mean, none of this is expensive financing. Everybody's borrowing very inexpensively at this stage. So I don't really think the cost of financing is the issue. It's the availability, given that markets are demanding liquidity. And so we're in there to make sure that the market functions in both directions. And it appears to be, we're off to a good start. I'm not going to declare victory, of course, because we haven't done something for every province yet. But we'll keep doing it until conditions are normalized, as simple as that. And again, the size is whatever market conditions demand.
Thank you. We will be taking one last question.
Thank you. Merci. Our last question is from Micheline Laflamme avec Radio-Canada. Please go ahead. À vous la parole.
Oui, merci. Monsieur Morneau, j'aimerais vous entendre à nouveau sur ce que ça signifie pour l'annonce de ce matin pour les petites entreprises. Donc, ce que ça signifie pour les employés qui avaient déjà été mis à pied et comment ça va fonctionner là? Est-ce qu'ils vont toujours recevoir la prestation d'urgence ou si maintenant ce sont les employeurs qui les paient qui vont s'occuper de les rémunérer? Et est-ce qu'on s'attend prochainement à avoir des mesures aussi pour les moyennes entreprises? Parce que vous avez parlé de grandes entreprises et d'industrie, mais les moyennes entreprises également.
Merci. Pour les gens qui sont maintenant dans une situation où ils n'ont pas de revenus à cause de COVID-19, si quelque chose a été déjà fait avec leur employeur, ils vont avoir l'opportunité d'avoir la prestation d'urgence et ça va être là pour eux. Si leur employeur décide de reconsidérer leur option, il y a une autre façon. Ça veut dire que ça peut être avec l'employeur. Mais à mon avis, probablement la grande majorité des gens qui sont dans une situation maintenant vont avoir l'opportunité pour la prestation d'urgence dans la semaine 6 avril. Mais il y a maintenant un choix pour les employeurs et ça, c'est quelque chose d'important. Donc, pour nous, nous pensons que on va avoir un sens de sécurité à cause de la situation et avec la prestation d'urgence, ils peuvent continuer leur association avec leur employeur et quand même avoir la prestation d'urgence. Aujourd'hui, nous avons annoncé aussi les facilités de crédit pour les petites et moyennes entreprises. Donc, quand vous dites que nous sommes là pour les grandes entreprises, vraiment, la chose qu'on a fait au début, c'est pour les petites et moyennes entreprises. Ça c'est notre annonce ce matin, une possibilité d'un prêt de $40 000 pour une petite et moyenne entreprise. Et ça, c'est très important parce que c'est sans intérêt. Et si la petite moyenne entreprise paye le prêt avant le 31 décembre 2022, ils vont avoir une réduction dans le prêt de 25%, jusqu'à $10 000. Donc ça, c'est très important pour eux. De cette façon, ils peuvent avoir la confiance qu'après le défi d'aujourd'hui, ils peuvent continuer avec leur business, leur affaire, et ça, c'est très important pour eux, c'est très important pour notre économie.
Merci. Et il y a des pays qui ont annoncé une aide aux petites entreprises là, depuis longtemps. On pense au Danemark. Alors ici, évidemment, les choses bougent, mais est-ce que vous croyez que vous avez mis en danger ou en fait que vous avez aggraver la situation financière des entreprises en retardant cette annonce.
Je sais que les choses changent vite. Nous avons décidé au début que la chose la plus importante est de protéger les gens qui vont être dans une situation sans argent. C'est pour ça que nous avons trouvé une façon d'avoir une prestation d'urgence, une approche qui va assurer tous les Canadiens qui sont dans une situation difficile à cause de COVID-19. Et de cette façon, pour les gens avec un employeur ou pour les gens qui travaillent, mais qui travaillent seuls ou qui travaillent comme pigistes ou qui travaillent comme conduiseurs de Uber, ils sont dans une position où ils peuvent avoir d'argent avec notre approche, avec notre prestation. Donc ça, c'était très important. Sinon, dans 2 semaines, on va avoir une situation où les gens peuvent pas avoir assez d'argent pour nourriture, les médicaments importants. Donc, je crois qu'on a trouvé une voie qui est bonne, mais en plus, maintenant, nous avons une deuxième voie. Et ça, c'est aussi important pour quelques compagnies, je suis sûr. Mais finalement, la chose importante pour moi, d'avoir une approche qui protège les gens, qui protège les compagnies, et avec la prestation d'urgence, avec le prêt pour les petites et moyennes entreprises, nous sommes là.
Merci, et c'est ce qui met fin à la conférence de presse.
Merci, and thank you. Thank you very much, Governor, for being here together.
Thank you. Merci.